AITA for putting my brother's wife in her place. It all started when my younger brother Tim brought her home. Lisa, his new girlfriend, seemed charming and sweet at first, with her bright smile and infectious laughter. But it didn't take long for the cracks in her facade to appear. Tim had always been the gentle one in our family, kind-hearted and a bit too soft for his own good. He was the type who avoided conflict at all costs, often to his own detriment. Lisa, on the other hand, was a force of nature. She had a temper that could flare up at the slightest provocation, and it became clear that she was used to getting her way. At family gatherings, she would snap at Tim over minor things, belittle him in front of everyone, and storm out in a huff over perceived slights. Tim, always eager to keep the peace, would apologize profusely and beg her to come back, which she would do only after extracting some form of penance from him. Our parents, ever the peacemakers, would try to smooth things over, urging us to be patient with Lisa. They believed that love could change people, and that Tim's gentle nature would eventually calm her down. I wasn't so sure. I could see the toll her behavior was taking on my brother. But every time I brought it up, he would defend her, insisting that she was just misunderstood and that she was working on her anger issues. Chapter 2, The Boiling Pot. As the years passed, Lisa's behavior only grew worse. She and Tim got married, and her anger seemed to have no bounds. She would fly into rages over the smallest things, a dish left unwashed, a forgotten errand, a look she interpreted as disrespectful. Tim was always on edge, constantly walking on eggshells around her. It was painful to watch. One incident stands out in my mind. It was during a family barbecue at our parents' house. Tim had spent hours preparing Lisa's favorite dish, a complicated recipe that required precise timing and attention. When it was finally served, Lisa took one bite, wrinkled her nose, and spat it out, declaring that it was disgusting and that Tim had obviously done it wrong. Tim's face fell, but he remained calm, apologizing and promising to do better next time. Lisa, however, was not satisfied. She continued to berate him in front of everyone, her voice growing louder and more shrill. Our parents looked uncomfortable, but they didn't intervene. I could see the hurt and embarrassment in Tim's eyes, and something inside me snapped. "Lisa, that's enough," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "He worked hard on that, and you have no right to treat him this way." Lisa turned her glare on me, her eyes blazing. "Stay out of this, Alex. This is between me and my husband." "No, it's not," I shot back. "You're making it everyone's problem by behaving like this. Tim deserves better." For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then Lisa stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Tim looked torn between gratitude and fear, and our parents quickly tried to change the subject, but the tension was palpable. Chapter 3, The Breaking Point. Despite the confrontation, Lisa's behavior did not improve. In fact, it seemed to escalate. She would pick fights with Tim over nothing, and her temper tantrums became more frequent and more violent. She would throw things, scream at the top of her lungs, and threaten to leave him. Tim, ever the peacemaker, would beg her to stay, apologizing for whatever perceived wrong he had committed. I watched in horror as my brother's spirit was slowly crushed under the weight of Lisa's anger. I tried to talk to him about it, but he was always defensive, insisting that he loved her and that she was trying to change. It broke my heart to see him like this, but I didn't know what else to do. The breaking point came one evening when Tim and Lisa were visiting me for dinner. I had prepared a simple meal, hoping for a quiet, pleasant evening. But from the moment they arrived, Lisa was in a foul mood. She complained about the traffic, the weather, and even the way my house was decorated. I bit my tongue, determined not to let her ruin the evening. During dinner, she picked at her food, barely eating anything. She made snide comments about my cooking, comparing it unfavorably to her own. I tried to ignore her, focusing on Tim and trying to draw him into conversation. But Lisa was relentless. "This is disgusting," she said, pushing her plate away. "I don't know how you can eat this crap." Something inside me snapped. I had had enough of her cruelty, her disrespect, and her relentless anger. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage. "Lisa, that's enough," I said, my voice trembling. "I have put up with your behavior for years, but I will not let you treat me or Tim this way in my own home. You are rude, disrespectful, and cruel, and I am done tolerating it." Lisa's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, she was speechless. Then she exploded. "How dare you speak to me like that? You have no idea what I've been through, what I've had to put up with. Tim, tell him." But Tim didn't say anything. He just sat there looking down at his hands, his face pale and drawn. Lisa turned on him, her anger shifting focus. "Tim, tell him," she screamed. "Tell him how awful he's being." Tim looked up, his eyes full of pain. "Lisa, maybe Alex is right. Maybe you need to control your anger." Lisa's face twisted with rage, and she stood up, knocking over her chair. "You're taking his side? After everything I've done for you?" She stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Tim sat there looking devastated. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. Tim, I'm so sorry, but you can't keep letting her treat you like this. You deserve better. Chapter 4, The Aftermath. The days that followed were tense and difficult. Lisa refused to speak to me, and Tim was caught in the middle, torn between his loyalty to his wife and his own growing sense of frustration and hurt. Our parents were supportive of me, but they were also worried about Tim and how he was coping with the situation. Lisa continued to isolate herself, refusing to attend family gatherings and avoiding any contact with us. Tim would come alone, looking more and more worn down each time. It was clear that her anger and resentment were taking a toll on their marriage, but he still clung to the hope that things would get better. One evening, Tim came to my house alone. He looked exhausted and defeated, his shoulders slumped and his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Alex, I don't know what to do, he said, his voice trembling. Lisa is so angry all the time, and nothing I do seems to help. She's refusing to go to counseling, and she won't talk to me. I feel like I'm losing her. I felt a surge of sympathy for my brother. He had always been the peacemaker, always trying to make things right, but this was a situation that he couldn't fix on his own. Tim, you can't keep sacrificing your own well-being to try and make her happy. She needs to take responsibility for her own actions and get the help she needs. You can't save her if she doesn't want to be saved. Tim nodded, his eyes filling with tears. I know, but I love her. I just want things to be okay. I know you do, I said softly, but you need to take care of yourself too. You deserve to be happy and to be treated with respect. Chapter 5, The Ultimatum. A few weeks later, Lisa called a family meeting. She wanted to address what had happened at my house and demanded that I apologize for my outburst. Tim, our parents, and I gathered in their living room, waiting for Lisa to arrive. When she finally did, she looked defiant, her eyes flashing with anger. I'm here to make it clear that I will not tolerate being disrespected in my own family, she began, her voice cold and sharp. Alex, you owe me an apology for the way you spoke to me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Lisa, I'm sorry if my words hurt you, but I won't apologize for standing up for myself and for Tim. Your behavior has been unacceptable, and it's time for it to stop. Lisa's face twisted with rage, and she turned to Tim. Are you just going to let him talk to me like that? You're my husband. You're supposed to support me. Tim looked torn, his eyes darting between Lisa and me. Finally, he took a deep breath and spoke. Lisa, I love you, but Alex is right. Your anger has been hurting everyone, including yourself. You need to get help. Lisa's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment she looked vulnerable, her anger replaced by a flicker of pain. But then the anger returned, and she stood up, her fists clenched. If that's how you feel, then maybe we should just end this. I can't believe you're taking his side over mine. Tim looked devastated, but he didn't back down. Lisa, I want to help you, but I can't keep doing this. You need to get help, or I don't know how we can continue. Chapter 6, The Turning Point. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Lisa moved out, staying with a friend while she and Tim tried to figure out what to do next. Tim was heartbroken, but there was also a sense of relief in him, a weight lifted from his shoulders. Our parents were supportive, urging Tim to take care of himself and to do what was best for his own well-being. They were worried about Lisa, but they also recognized the toll her behavior had taken on Tim and the rest of us. One evening, Tim and I sat on my porch, sipping beers and watching the sunset. He looked tired, but more at peace than I had seen him in a long time. Thank you, Alex, he said, his voice quiet. I know it was hard, but I needed to hear the truth. I needed to stand up for myself. I nodded, feeling a swell of pride and relief. You did the right thing, Tim. You deserve to be happy and to be treated with respect. Chapter 7, The Path to Healing. In the months that followed, Tim and Lisa decided to separate. Lisa agreed to go to counseling, and while it was a long and difficult process, she began to confront her anger issues and work on changing her behavior. Tim also went to therapy, finding ways to rebuild his self-esteem and to learn how to set boundaries. Our family began to heal, the tension and fear that had hung over us for so long slowly dissipating. Tim and Lisa eventually divorced, but they remained amicable, both recognizing that they needed to focus on their own growth and healing. Tim began to rediscover himself, finding joy in activities he had long neglected and building new, healthier relationships. Our parents were proud of him, and we all felt a renewed sense of hope and unity as a family. Chapter 8, The Road Ahead. As I look back on those difficult years, I realize that standing up to Lisa was one of the hardest but most important things I've ever done. It was a turning point for our family, a moment when we chose to confront the truth and to support each other in finding a path to healing. Tim is stronger now, more confident and self-assured. He knows that he deserves to be treated with respect and that he has the right to stand up for himself. Lisa is also on her own journey of growth, learning to manage her anger and to build healthier relationships. Our family is closer than ever, united by the challenges we faced and the lessons we learned. We've come to understand that love sometimes means making difficult choices and standing up for what's right, even when it's painful. To anyone out there dealing with a toxic relationship, know that you're not alone. It's okay to stand up for yourself and to seek help. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness, and there is always hope for healing and growth. Thank you for reading my story. Sharing it has been a cathartic experience, and I hope it helps someone else who might be going through something similar. Remember, you have the strength to stand up for yourself and to find a path to happiness and peace.